So we're coming closer to the end of the panel. So the final speaker is Ambassador von Goetze, the German ambassador to Israel since July last year. And Germany, as you all know, is one of the main international actors to promote a peaceful two-state solution and supports Israel and the Palestinians with major economic and security resources. So, Mr. Ambassador, having listened to the remarks of the previous speakers, very controversial ones at times, on what issues would you suggest to rethink the policies and support of the international community in favor of reaching a two-state solution? Please.
Yeah, Mr. Buscher, thank you very much. Yeah, not an easy task after this very engaged contributions from the Israeli side, now as the only foreign contributor to this panel to speak as the last. Let me start with the very fundamental question that Member of Knesset Yehuda Glick has brought up here, and I think that has to be spoken out clearly. Are we aiming for a two-state solution, or is a one-state solution what is to be aimed at? Because then the rest follows. And this is the fundamental question. And Member of Knesset Glick has answered that and said the one-state solution is what the actual coalition is aiming for, or at least a major part of the actual coalition is aiming for, and not the two-state solution. I mean, we, as Lars, the European ambassador, has already made it clear, in the international community are unanimously for the two-state solution. And I think we are right, because what Member of Knesset Glick, with all due respect, said that a one-state solution is acceptable also to the Palestinians, I would severely doubt that. First of all, you have spoken of civil rights given to the Palestinian population in the now occupied territories, but it has not only to be civil rights, it has also to be political rights, meaning they would have to have full voting rights to the Knesset.
Yeah.
Is that also what you mean?
Yes.
Interesting. The second thing is...
You're not scaring me.
No, I'm just asking. The second point is you are of the opinion of your meetings or together with Palestinian neighbors that the Palestinian population is in favor of a one-state solution. I mean, all the polls I've been reading and the meetings I had with Palestinians tell me otherwise. So I don't think in the end you would get a majority of the Palestinians agreeing to a one-state solution. So I would fundamentally argue that a one-state solution with full voting rights for the Palestinians would lead to at least a very, very difficult parliament with very, very difficult building of coalitions with majorities, and would question the Jewish character of the state that others have so strongly emphasized here. And secondly, I would very much severely doubt that the Palestinians would be willing to accept that. I mean, if so, then we are talking on another basis. But I continue to believe, and I think the whole international community continues to believe, that the two-state solution is the only viable strategic outlook for Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. If that is the basis on which we argue, then I would stress here one point that has, interestingly, not been that much stressed by the Israeli speakers, and that is security. Security is the core of everything. And that's something that I remember very well. Egon Bahr, one of the architects of Ostpolitik in Germany, always told us when we were young diplomats, security is always the core of everything. Only if you solve the security problems, the rest will follow. And that's why we understand from Germany and from Europe, we understand very, very well the security concerns that Israel has. And that any solution, any two-state solution in the end that is to be found has to serve the security interests of both sides, and people have to be sure that they, their kids and their grandkids can live in security. And that's why the Chancellor, when she... and that's why our Chancellor, when she was speaking to the Knesset, given the Holocaust and what Germans have done to Jews in the past, has so much stressed that the security and existence of Israel is also a raison d'etat for Germany. But having stated that, saying the security is the core, I don't think that security concerns make a two-state solution impossible. They have to be taken into account and they have to be worked in, but they do not make a two-state solution impossible. And we have to see how we can get there to a two-state solution, taking these security concerns into account. And maybe we cannot reach that immediately, and we have to work on it hard. But there are a lot of things that can be done in a pragmatic approach, and I have not read through the paper we received today that the center, the S. Daniel Abrams Center, has worked out together with Friedrich-Ebert, and I thank you for that. But I'm sure that this pragmatic approach is the one we have to follow. What can be done? First of all, I think it's very clear terror has to stop and incitement has to stop. It's very clear from the Palestinian side. Economic incentives have to be given to the Palestinians and also to the Israelis, and we have to see that people on both sides see also in their daily life progress when we are working towards a two-state solution. And we have to see that the settlements in the occupied territories in the West Bank are not reason for daily struggles between the people living there. I mean, you, Mr. Glick, you have described that there is also harmonious living together, but obviously there's also a less harmonious living together between settlements and Palestinian villages around. And I would, for example, think about why not expanding Area B stronger into Area C than we have seen it now, giving more civil administration responsibility to the Palestinian side without taking away the security from Israel. Why not developing more master plans for Area C that would allow the Palestinians to really develop their communities in this area? And Mr. Glick, you have said, yes, we have to build roads. Yeah, why not? I think that's a very good idea. But when, for example, the European Union is helping in infrastructure in Area C, this is heavily contested and even threatened with demolition. So I see a contradiction in that. And also on the economic side, I think better conditions for export and imports of goods and persons in and out of the West Bank should be created. Third point I would like to mention, or fourth in the meantime, is the regional approach that has been described here by Mr. Huberman. I think you have a lot of good arguments on your side that any kind of peace process will have to be accompanied by a regional approach. I also see a readiness from a lot of Arab states to work more pragmatically in that direction. But it has to be a clear outlook for these countries that the end of the process is a two-state solution. And you have made that very clear with your terms of reference. I think that's exactly the case. The Arab states have already agreed on the Arab Peace Initiative, and I think they will not go further at this stage when they have not the clear impression that Israel is really with full force working into the direction of a two-state solution. We have seen the problems that are always arising on a political level. For example, when voting for resolutions in different bodies of the United Nations, all the Arab states are normally very critical of Israel, much more critical than the European Union. And if ever this has to be transformed into a regional process, the Arab states will have to be convinced that this is going into a direction, not maybe in every detail, but going into the direction they have described with the Arab Peace Initiative. And lastly, and that now I come to the question of Werner Puschra, what can the outside world, what can Europe do? I think it's correct. We should mainly work with incentives. And as Lars has described in his initial remarks, Europe has offered a special privileged partnership. Outside pressure, I mean, there the government, my government, the German government, has always been very skeptical going into that direction. We clearly are not for any kind of sanctions against Israel, and also for very historical reasons, we strongly object any kind of boycott of Israel or Israeli products. I think that is very clear, and Germany will remain fundamentally opposed to go into that direction. And maybe as a last remark, also from our government, I understand the strong criticism on the UNESCO resolution, because I think we should all be clear with historical facts, and that's why Germany has voted against this resolution in the Executive Committee of UNESCO. Thank you very much.